So worship for me is a pouring exchange. I pour out to God and he pours into me. And that's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Look at that. It's so simple. It ain't deep.
Exactly. Just make it deep.
Right. Let's do this. Let's get into it.
We are here for you. Come and do what you do.
We are here for you. Come and do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. Oh, we need a more. We need a more. Oh, we do what you do. Oh, yeah. Bodies are still being raised. Giants are still being slain. Oh, God, we believe it. Yes, we can see it. That wonders are still what you do. Oh, we're here for you. Come and do what only you can do. We're here for you. Come and do what only you can do. Set our hearts on you, God. Come on and do what you do. We need it, God. We need a move. Oh, God, we need a move today. We're standing in the need of a move. Oh, God. Miracles happen when you move. Healing is coming in this room. And miracles happen when you move. Heaven is coming. Heaven is coming in. Miracles happen when you move. Healing is coming in this room. Heaven, we need you now. Now, we need you right now. Miracles, signs, wonders. Miracles, signs, wonders. Miracles, signs, and wonders happen when you move. Heaven is coming. This is a mover. This is the mover. This is the mover. We live to worship you. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. This is the mover. God, we stand with our arms outstretched. This is God. We receive your move today. Whatever you want to do, God, we bless you. God, we worship you. This is the move today. It is right now. It is right now. It is right now. Worship is where it is. Worship is where it is. Yes, God. We are here for you. Come on, God. Do what you do. We are here for you. Come on, God. Do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Yeah.
Come and do what you do.
We need. We need. We need. Every moment, every second, every minute, every hour, every moment, every second, every minute, every hour, every hour, every moment. Oh, every hour,
We're standing in the need. And this moment is a move.
moment is over.
This moment is a move.
Moment is the moment.
Healing is right now. Ways are made right now. This is right now, oh God. This is whatever you need. This is the most.
You can't.
Testing, testing. Good morning, good morning. We need a move. Yes, we definitely need a move toward the rise of the African within you. Welcome to Alkebulan Inspirational Sunday, where we are uplifting Black youth, Black young adults, Black parents, and the elders. We touching everybody because we need a move. And we are sitting here in our social media Pan-African movement of the rise of the African, where we're bringing uh, our efforts to bring the entire diaspora, the African diaspora, together under an umbrella where we can move forward as a people and change the world around us, have more of a positive effect, the way our ancestors used to. Woo! Let's talk about it. We are in the experience of Pentecost season. We're in the middle of the season. Uh-oh. Let me see if I can fix that for you. We are in the middle of our season. I need you to see that, Pete. There we go. And we're really at the end. So this is the last week. Next week is Pentecost Sunday. Next week is Pentecost Sunday. And so we know that Pentecost, if you don't recap, rewind, recap. Pentecost Sunday is those 50 days after the assassination of Jesus, the Black Messiah, where the 12 disciples were in the upper room discussing, meditating, praying, and terroring, meaning going deeper into their subconscious, their conscious and the subconscious, their mind of the their mental mind, the mind of the heart. Yes, they were traveling deep within themselves to figure out who God would have us be and do, or who He would have them be and do, according to the circumstances in which they were living under. And so today, you know, we always know that it's about that melanated power. We believe that they were tapping into the spirit that is within all of us, that Pentecostal melanated power, where they come in, they're using the science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. We are God's team, where they were using everything of what God gave them to connect to the power within. That Pentecost, the melanated Pentecostal power. It's more than just spirit. It's utilizing the whole facet of your being. That's the lesson today. And so we talk about when we deal with Pentecost, it's not about you doing it solo. It's about the collection of your group. Who was around you? Who do you have in your environment? Who are you working with? Who are you speaking life into while they're speaking life into you? What's that balance? Right? And so in this journey of a group, what? In this journey of a group, you're finding your greatest, your best, and your greatest self in God. We have a word that we say, "Kua," becoming what you already are. The art of becoming what you already are. Because it's definitely it's an art. Because if it was that easy, we'd be exactly what we're supposed to be. But it's a skill to it. It's a process to it. It's why everybody can't do it. But it's really starts. It doesn't start, but it your group is significant. What God do you serve, and who do you serve that God with? Mm. What God do you serve, and who do you serve that God with? We talk about that, knowing who your friends are, knowing what they represent, what they look for from you, what they look for from God. And again, are they searching for a move? Mm. Are they searching for a move in God, with God, from God? Are they crying out, we need something powerful to happen? Miracles, wonders, signs to help us with the life that we live. When you have a group doing it together, that's power personified. Effort personified means it's greater. And so we talked about in that experience, our last conversation, we talked about walking in your authority, understanding that God placed certain authority in you, knowing that, walking with the air of Godfidence, not confidence. Because confidence, I got confidence I'm going to achieve something. Yeah, but what happens if you see somebody better? Does that mean you still got your confidence? Confidence means you know who you are in God, and whether you win or lose a particular game, you get to learn more about the God within in the midst of that journey, because that's what it's all about. And the extra blessing is actually winning whatever or achieving the goals that you set. Now, we did talk, now, walking in authority is one thing, but it's also about walking in the spirit. Walking in the spirit. That's a different, just only in the authority, because people have the authority where they we did that before, where we talked about the authority of police. That's not enough. The authority of a corrupt government. It's not enough. The spirit of God. Walking in a righteous spirit. And it's always important that we acknowledge, what spirit are we functioning under? What spirit do you walk in? You can walk in the spirit of greed. You can walk in the spirit of shame. You can walk in the spirit of depression. Are you walking in a righteous spirit? And so that always needs to be determined within the group. What spirit does the group that you pull together that's supposed to that you rock with? What spirit is that group function under? Is this the spirit of God, or is it the spirit of you? I'm choosing the spirit of God, and I'm choosing for you the spirit of God. And I'm going to assume that that's the one that you choose. So that if that's the case, we can move on to the next level, which is our topic for the day, the living instinct. Like, what? Yeah, that living instinct. Mm. And so this is the last week of Pentecost. And for me, this season, I did not have I did not have a strong physical group experience. Yeah, my group, we didn't meet a lot. We met some a little bit, but our conversations wasn't about Pentecost, wasn't about being more powerful as a group. And, we did start something in terms of the gathering, and that's a beautiful thing. But when Pentecost season hit, we did not necessarily as a group focus on Pentecost. As individuals, we are focused, right? And so I always try to pick somebody and call somebody to see if I can find somebody to actually team up with so that I can have this experience. And I did something different because in the effort to experience that living instinct, and I'll explain it before it's over with. This particular experience, seeking that Pentecostal, that melanated Pentecostal power, and wanting to have the experience where I focus on life. We talked about speaking life, what life is, what it means. I said, we're going to have to create a team. And so, what I did this particular Pentecostal season was I went out and I purposely focused on connecting to my ancestors. I said, this prayer I even changed my passwords to focus on speaking to my ancestors, acknowledging my ancestors, and not making a move without them. And I did this graphic years ago. And see, if you see the whole graphic, this whole lesson is going to sum up this one work of art. And I sat down and said, I need to call on them on a regular basis so that I can, for the sake of Pentecostal experience, I need you guys to open me up to a greater me. And so I went digging into my insides, my DNA, not just spiritually reaching out. I said, I need y'all to unlock what's in my DNA. And so I started having my rituals, my prayers, meditations, fasting, eating, you mean taking walks. Everything was centered around getting my ancestors on one accord, because I said, I know that there's something extra built inside me that I'm not tapping into. And I want a group experience and I couldn't have the physical group experience. So I played the drums. I did my chanting, meditation. Man, I purified my space and I asked them specifically, open more information in my DNA. Yeah, that's what I asked for. And in that space, it the understanding that we only use a small fraction of our brain. We only access, and if you look across in the face, that's DNA code. That's the coding of God. In your body, they pick up these letters. It's the coding of God. It's the genetic makeup that makes you up. 50% your mother, 50% your father, and then, you know, then you got your grandmother and your grandfather, then you got on your mother's side, your grandmother and grandfather, father's side, grandmother, grandfather, and then it keeps going. And all of that is the code of who you are. And all of that has what you're built to do, your mission. It has everything in there. And we don't always grow up knowing what it is. We don't always grow up understanding it. However, it's there. So as I was asking my ancestors, meditating and praying to say, look, I need y'all to be the group I work with. I'm surrendering everything. We sit in this circle, I'm surrendering everything. You are in the experience of God on the spiritual realm. I'm in the experience of God on the physical realm. Help me bring more of the spiritual inside my physical, is what I was asking my ancestors. And then I said, as you do that, help me unlock my DNA code. So I'm functioning more than just a fraction of who I am. Because when you're dealing with DNA and when you're dealing with the fraction of the use of the mind, the world puts you in a situation where they're not going to let you use a majority of your brain cells and your spiritual awareness anyway. So that's why it's up to us to go through these things to understand these things. And so what I did was I started reading, studying. I changed my input. The conversations that I would have with individuals directly, I began to have conversations with individuals on the African Speaks studying even more and then sharing those dialogues and hanging up the phone and calling individuals about the dialogue and having those discussions. This week we have a group of sisters coming on and speak about the divine feminine. So y'all sisters come through and y'all brothers listen up. We need to learn about our black women. And so I started asking about unlock my DNA. I started sending in more higher frequency conversations, higher frequency data. And I learned something new. This is a new word we're going to use. We're going to add this into our spiritual journey as we begin to seek to, you see the DNA code? You see the God code. Everybody has that God code. Now, what I learned about that God code while I'm talking to my ancestors, I'm searching within me and without me. I'm using the internet. I didn't know what to search for. I just started picking stuff and listening. I learned a new word, a new phrase, and a new science. It's called epigenetics. Now, epigenetics talks about, and it's a epigenetics is an emerging area of scientific research that shows how environmental influences children's experiences, um, and was it actually affect the expression of their genes. Mm. How your environment can alter how your genetic makeup is being used in the world around you. How it can your situation, you either shut it off, your the expression of your genetic makeup, your releasing of your code, or it can unlock it depending on your environment. Now, what they found out in terms of the epigenetic science said that there is epigenetic information mm, embedded in your DNA. And we always talk about that. We already said that coding is the language that God speaks. Math and science. There's there's so much happening around us, God's language to us to help us understand how God is working with us. And we can talk scripture. We can talk prayer. We can talk all of that, but then we can also talk science and mathematics because that is the language in which God is using to communicate with us. It's more than just spirit. It's the whole gambit. And so being in an atmosphere that is connecting you to your ancestors and there's a scientist. Yeah, I look this up. Look up epigenetics. Look up epigenetic information. Put that word after epigenetics. And I should have had the scientist's name and information so that you could also do that. But a scientist downloaded an ebook, and an ebook is just nothing but a virtual book, right? It's a virtual book that you watch. You don't. It's not a physical book, but it's a book on the internet. This is a physical book. Well, somebody typed a physical book and put it on the internet on a computer, and then downloaded that information from that book into DNA, directly into one of the strands of DNA. Yes. They can download information and unload information in a DNA cell. Yes. And they've seen other information written in code. And they said mystically, and we've talked about this before, there is somebody writing code in your body as we speak. There's something coding you and uncoding you. If I take a piece of hair and pluck it out, my code changes. Why? Because there's a code that says make this follicle of hair grow in my DNA. I pull it out, it says that follicle in section 3264B, I just made that up, needs to grow back. The code changes. We are God, we're God's science. And so I went to my ancestors when I found as I began to continue to study because I didn't have a physical group. I went to my ancestral bloodline, speaking to them every day, saying, look, I need ancestral guidance to get me even deeper into the God within. Y'all lead me there. Have me speak to the people I'm supposed to speak to. Have me do the things I'm supposed to do to get even more profound because my one of my mentors, Jermoja Baby Ajiman, put together a science called Kua. We don't use the word no more, but it's still there for those of us who remember it, know it, and I still have the books, and I actually teach from that. Said this is the science of becoming what you already are. It's just the fact that we are born in a world that keeps us from it. And that's why these processes are important. And everybody knows Pentecost is my favorite season because I get to power up the same way 12 disciples had. And so in this epigenetic understanding and wisdom where I sat down and said, hey, what happens when you unleash that code when you come up? Because the same way you have transgenerational curses, we have transgenerational wisdom. And when that wisdom is unlocked, you're now, when we only had partial coding, what Pentecost and our spiritual practices do, it helps us unleash the full plan of who God has called us to be. Not a short plan, not partial, but the full range of the coding begins to unlock. And that's when we have those moments where we're saying we need you to release the gifts that God placed in you. We need you to be the best possible you so that you could open up all the information God has placed in you so that we can find out the gifts that are inside you. Because we are all sent here as a gift to the earth, as a gift to humanity, as a gift from God and to God to bring something beautiful to the world. No one of us is not God's steam. His science, his technology, his engineering, his artwork, and his mathematics. All of us are an expression of the divine consciousness, which is God. All of us are. Pentecost is that season where, in a tragedy of the assassination of Jesus, the Black Messiah, the 12 disciples scattered. But then they had to come back together and say, wait a minute, God's not finished with us. Just because of the tragedy, it doesn't mean that God is finished. We need to come together and tap into God's science, God's technology, God's engineering, God's artwork, and God's mathematics that sits within us. Why? Because when you sit down and we say, know thyself, knowing yourself is the beginning of all your wisdom. It begins to unlock the information that is within you. And so when you start saying, I want to know myself, that is the time you know you begin to seek God. Because if you only know you and not know you as relationship to God, you'll never get to your ultimate power. You'll never get to your ultimate source. And so we always got to seek God in every. You got to be your best self all the time. And they say because in that space where you got people fulfilling their dreams and having visions of what God wants them to create and then going, y'all know Phineas and Ferb, and going to do it. You have to seek God first, seek the kingdom of God first, and his righteousness, everything that he wants you to do that is right and just. And all things will be given unto you as well. And so when the 12 disciples got together, they said, we want a better life because they're killing our leaders. They're killing our people. And we need to be able to create an experience where they stop it. And they were able to come across that. But to do that, they had to embrace, and this is why we always say, they had to embrace who they are. A lot of times, we don't want to embrace the culture that God placed us in, but you have to. If you're going to unlock the power of God in, you have to accept your past in terms of your heritage. Not the fact that you started as a slave, but you started as the first beings on earth, where everything comes out of you. You are a manifestation of divine thought, straight from the God's mind's thoughts. You were created. And from everything else, everybody else came out of it. And so you got to go back to understanding the identity God gave, the culture God gave, the songs, the words, the dances. Because African music is getting even more and more popular, y'all. The beauty of dark skinned people are getting more and more popular, y'all. Why? Because we as a people are reaching back. We are seeking God and the righteousness of God. That's important. And allowing those things to be blessed too is by the thing when we because we're making those changes. But as you also seek your heritage, your culture, your traditions, also understand the fight that we're in inside the Africa, the Americas. And when this happens and you start realizing that you're a descendant from individuals who know how to move forward through tragedy, who know how to move forward through struggle, until you get to that point where you get to the beginning of us, where there was no oppressive society, where we built as gods. And so in our experience in the Americas, they said most of them was I can prove myself to God that I'm not going to allow whatever the world is doing to me to control me. I know that there's something better inside me, and I can hear it in a small voice saying, "You are greater than that. You are so much more than what they're telling you." And reach for, reach for the greatness that you see that you are. Now, at this last week, and some of us may not have taken the time, some of us may have not taken the time to focus on Pentecost season. Some of us didn't think, not even thinking about it, because we're doing it. We got one more week before the holiday's over. This holiday season, Pentecost season is over, because we should be doing some celebrating come next week. Labor Day is a Memorial Day. We should be doing some serious celebrating. And if you haven't, you still got 1 week to go to start unlocking some greatness in you. Now, in sports, they call it beast mode. And I've been there, where you sit down and you don't let anything stop you from manifesting what you will manifest and doing what you do. And I've been there where I experienced myself as beast mode. And I was producing, I was learning, I was developing, I was in it, and I went hard. And it was like a killer instinct, where anything that got in my way got shut down. Anyone who got in my way got bypassed. People couldn't understand what Brother Ajay, who now Walamu Ajay, was. Yo, what you doing? I'm in beast mode. And if you're trying to stop me, I'm moving around you, through you, over you. I'm slip under you. It's that killer instinct that I'm not gonna stop anything that's trying to stop me. And in that space where I knew I was seeking God, but I wasn't completely tapping into all of that was in, but I went after. And in that space of learning more about who I was in God, or who I am in God, in regards to African history and my people, and how special we are to God, and in who we are here in the Americas and the diaspora, you know, I felt that confidence. I felt that power. You feel that strength. You get strong in beast mode. But then I realized that there was something greater than beast mode. And it hit, and it's warrior. The resurrection of the African. This is when everything started really coming together. And y'all see it. I didn't use this particular image before, but because I changed it. But take a look. The rise of the African, and then the resurrection of the African. Right? And it's greater than I've ever been. I had to switch. I had to leave beast mode alone. Now, beast mode will win in sports, but it will not win in the spiritual realm. And I had to find something that was greater than beast mode. And in this last week, if you have not focused on it, you tap into your ancestors and say, switch me to warrior. This is that being on earth that has dominion over the beast. You had African warriors and kings to go into war riding lions and war elephants. To this day, you can't train an elephant. They can't train an elephant to go to war. To walk over a mountain and go to war, that's something different. You're not going to sit down and ride a lion, and a lion don't eat you, it eats your enemies. I had to switch to warrior. Warrior mode telling, and then in that space, when you switch to warrior mode, there's a different experience you receive. Because beast only wants to conquer and not have any regard to what's in front of them. Well, warrior mode is different. Warrior mode taps into what our lesson was today, that living instinct. That warrior mode, the reason why warriors can ride elephants and lions and have dominion is because they realize that God gave them the authority to walk in dominion of those things in spirit. People jump because they're scared of flies. You realize that, oh, I'm scared of spiders. But God gave you dominion over all creatures. And I started practicing that when I realized in warrior mode, my living instinct that I had dominion over life. The powers around me. We need to move. So I had the ability to speak to God, speak to my ancestors, request something, have faith to know that they're going to answer it, and live in the space of life is developing the way it's supposed to develop, that living instinct. Where you get up every day knowing that I'm living in God today. I'm living for God today. God is living through me today. It's a living instinct where you see everything and you're connected to all things. Why? Because all things are living. Even this book is an inanimate object. It doesn't think, but it has God's living energy in it. Atoms that move back and forth. That energy that moves them, that's the energy of God that moves an atom back and forth. And atom is, well, we're going to talk, that's a different lesson. It's 90 or more than 90% of just space and energy. But you live and you start seeing things and relating to things as though that you're connected to. You're connected to people. Y'all see how in the Star Wars, Epiphany, Star Wars, the Jedi mind trick where you sit down and you think and you tell people what they want to say and they say it. I did that when I was in school, me and my friend Glenn Green. Wherever you at, Glenn Green, one love. Hope you're doing well. That you can connect to people and influence their thoughts and their actions, positive or negative. I would like to think that if you could influence individuals, you do it in a positive way. But that living instinct where you are driven to experience the best life possible according to what God placed inside you. So this last week of Pentecost season, if you have not embraced it yet, call on your ancestors to say, help me walk into the warrior mode where I experience the living instinct where I'm connected to a unified universe. I am connected to a unified universe where I am a part of all things and all things are a part of me. And we are a part of God. That's what the 12 disciples went through. In an upper room, they realized that they were in a unified universe and they adopted a living instinct that all things are allowed to live to its fullest potential. And they untapped the closed DNA. They opened up the epigenetic information and saw their relationship to one another, their relationship to each other, their relationship to nature, and they walked in power because of the living instinct. I don't want a killer instinct. I want a living instinct that allows me to interact with the universe, feeling connected to God and all things. That is the culmination of a Pentecostal experience. Where you wake up that morning after your fasting, after your meditation, your prayer, your interactions with people, you're being the best possible you, calling on the Creator, saying, give me the awareness of my connection to the power that exists around me. And then you begin to tap into that living instinct. I took a trip today to visit my godson, my new godson. His mom passed, and his grandmother called me, and she said, you need to step up now. So I took a trip. As I took a trip in my Pentecostal moment, as I traveled across flying across the country and walking through the airport, I realized I'm connected to everybody, and everybody's connected to me. They may not realize it because they have been trapped. But when you see people and you realize that we are all of God, I am you and you are me. My I is plural and my we is singular. Access that living instinct and become aware that we are in a unified universe. Do that. Keep praying, meditating, understanding you are God's perfect science. You're God's perfect technology. You're God's perfect engineering. You're His artwork. You're His mathematics. Realize the beauty of you. You were made to be powerful. Pentecost is the season where you take that time. So step into your warrior mode this last week and tell yourself, your ancestors, and everybody around you, we live, move, and have our total being in God. And by this week, we will be more powerful than we've ever been. And you will work toward increasing that power because you're asking the Creator for a move in God where you realize not just the fact that you need a miracle, but you are. And if you can see yourself as the miracle of God, then there's going to be a rise of an African within you that has the ability to change the world. So in this space, listen to the song again and realize that you're asking God to bear witness to the miracle of you, the miracle of plants, life, water, everything. This is who we are as African people, and this is what we thought in the beginning. In the beginning of our time, we knew our relationship to God without a shadow of a doubt. That's why everything is spiritual in African community. There was no liberal conversation. You are of God, period. And we know how to see what is in harmony with God and how to see what is not in harmony with God. And we built empires and we influenced the entire globe. Let us do that again. Build a Pan-African empire and influence the entire globe by asking God for one love.
So worship for me is a pouring exchange. I pour out to God and He pours into me. And that's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Look at that. It's so simple. It ain't deep.
Exactly. Just make it deep.
Right. Let's do this. Let's get into it.
We are here for you. Come and do what you do. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. Yeah. Oh, we need a more. We need a more. Oh, we do what you do. Oh, yeah. Bodies are still being raised. Giants are still being slain. Oh, God, we believe it. Yes, we can see it. That wonders are still what you do. Oh, we're here for you. Come and do what only you can do. We're here for you. Come and do what only you can do.
It's different when you are listening to it and understanding who you are in God. You're asking God to bring you to that experience where you are the ultimate powerful being that He calls you to be. You're not asking for the rest to be paid. You're not asking for money and fortune. You're asking to experience the greatness of the creation of who you are.
Miracles happen when
God created a miracle. And so even if you're ill, that's what they healing. Illness is not being connected to God. It's different now when you can hear the song and understand that you're asking God to impart, to affect the world around you. I just don't want to be the simple thing. I want you to unlock every genetic code of information that makes me the most powerful being that you called me to be, that unleashes my gifts, that unleashes my talents, that unleashes my purpose. When God moves in your life, you become the greatest being that you could possibly be. That is the move. This is that moment. So if you missed Pentecost, you got this last week, this last journey to grab at it, to reach forward and get it. There is nobody like the Creator. There's nobody like you. Ask for the move. Claim the move. Walk in the spirit of the living instinct, where you're going to be at your absolute best just by giving God praise and asking your ancestors for assistance and guidance and making sure that your friends around you are speaking the same life in you that you're speaking in them. Then watch God move. Watch God move. She said, it's me pouring out to God and God pouring in to me.
We are here for you.
Let them
Come on, yeah.
happen.
Do what you do.
Let God in
We are
and let God do what He
here for
do.
you.
I can't wait to see
Come on, yeah.
the greatest
Do
you, your best self.
what you do.